Welcome to video 25, True Forgiveness for True Release from Guilt. Hello friend, thanks again for being here. In my last video, I talked about that you are me in disguise. You can only be me because it's only me out there and it's only you out there. What am I? If we need to ask, it's good that we are watching these videos. I am nothing but what you believe, because what I am in truth is simply you, projected outward. I am here to help us to realize what's really going on. Please continue to watch these videos. They are divinely inspired and contain information derived from deep within and from the lessons learned in A Course in Miracles. Today's topic is, what the world calls forgiveness is not forgiveness because it's without forgetting. So it's a tool of guilt, flinging, and the cherishing and self-damnation of ourselves. True forgiveness is a total not seeing or overlooking of what can't be true and has never really occurred as we feared it had. It requires a total forgetting and a total letting go of the idea to the Holy Spirit for purification. Anything else is simply an ugly game of ball made of guilt. I was thinking about a lesson for the day from A Course in Miracles, and I reread this particular sentence. My function here is to forgive the world for all the errors I have made, for thus am I released from them with all the world. And it's interesting to note that the actual lesson, number 99, is salvation is my only function here. Yet the most significant passage from A Course in Miracles, the one I always remember the most due to its impact on my mind and its importance in helping me to realize the release that true forgiveness gives, is the one that reminds us that it's not difficult to forgive when we remember that we are only forgiving what's not true. We don't try to forgive what's true because that would be delusional. What's real, what's true, is real and it's true. What's not real or true is not real nor true. Isn't it better to forget it than to defend it? When we defend untruth, we are actually defending against our true self, because what we are in truth is truth. It doesn't matter what fantasies or impossibilities we believe or anyone else believes, nor how strongly these ideas seem to be believed. God created reality. It's beyond belief. Any and every other idea is simply false. What we believe may seem true. It may appear to be true. It may seem to leave evidence of having had effects on the fantasy screen of the dream world we have projected images onto. But no appearance can be true as they are so variable and unstable. A belief is just a thought, a false idea that we decide is what we want to be true. And then we latch onto it because we have no real idea what is true, having denied ourself, which is truth. And the more we defend our beliefs, the more we can realize they can't be true because truth needs no defense. What happened to the truth then? It became forgotten once it was denied, which seemed to happen when we chose our own version of what we thought would be a better reality for our lives. What we forgot before we forgot is that our singular life has already been fully created by God in an eternal, changeless, constant, stable, unvarying, fixed, immutable, unalterable, fully established, ceaseless, continuing, and permanent state. This is God's will, and what is His will can not only not be changed, it goes on forever. The problem at hand is that we believe that what we believe is true. We think that it doesn't matter what anyone else believes, or even what God proclaimed as and created as reality. What we believe to be true must be true in our belief because we believe it with such veracity and will defend it to the end, even if it's completely false. Wouldn't it be better to stop believing in what can't be true? All beliefs are untrue. Forgiveness is a forgetting that leads to a remembering. It's to forget what cannot be, then the remembering of what has always been. A Course in Miracles defines forgiveness as seeing that what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred, or not seeing that what he couldn't do has occurred when it can't. We accept that we projected guilt onto our brother because we were so afraid of the world that seemed to emerge after we rejected our own father. Let's apply the prayer of forgiveness. It is a practice of looking at our ego identification with the Holy Spirit so we can see it without the guilt of judgment and the defense-attack cycle it spawns. It's a type of action prayer where we must release our fearful ideas before the true prayers of our hearts can be answered by the one who knows what truth is and can never be deceived. The power of forgiveness lies in seeing that there was only a mistaken perception which can be overlooked, and so the mind remains at peace. Jesus says that true forgiveness merely waits, looks, and judges not. It does not pardon sins by making them real. Rather, it sees there was no sin. In this way, you are able to gather in the storehouse of your mind stories about forgiveness, whereby the ego's tales of separation are denied and replaced by a state of mind in which the Holy Spirit corrects our perception. This leads to the happy dream that ends all fearful dreams, because all dreams are nightmares. God is, He is no dream. Since God does not condemn, asking for forgiveness ultimately is not necessary. You can't not be forgiven for what can't happen. Basically, Jesus learned the only lesson worth learning, that forgiveness is salvation. If we are to be saved from the world and all we think it is, wouldn't it then no longer be discernible without a definition? This is what true forgiveness is, to remove our definition of what something is and ask the Holy Spirit what it really, truly is. Thus, forgiveness is not seeing, or it's overlooking what we had thought something is. What we are, and thus everything we think exists, must be beyond definition, as we are like God, who has no definition. He simply is the eternal state of oneness and love. This is not a thing. It's 100% spirit, forever alive, outside the limits of unreality, to which time and space must be apart. Heaven is timeless and has no physicality. Sin and guilt require bodies to act out. We can rest in peace when we realize we don't have a body, even when we think we are alive in one. Salvation requires forgiveness, because whenever we judge something, we are condemning it or damning it, because our false ego identification can't know how to see things from the perspective of oneness, which is purity, defenselessness, certainty, and innocence. When we forget our true identity, we are seeing through the perception of the ego, which only sees sadness. Bodies are sad. They are always dying. From the moment they seem to be born, they are slowly decaying, and returning themselves back to the dust from which they came. They always seem to be fighting and defending themselves against nothing, and always seem to be lacking. Ego perception relies on judgment, and judgment is the dissecting of what seems to us to be a world, to understand what it is. Once what is one has been torn apart into tiny pieces, God ceases to make any sense whatsoever. So, forgiveness is not just pardoning, it's even deeper than forgetting. It's the total overlooking or not seeing of what we thought tiny disjointed fragments could be before we have a chance to label these fragments in an attempt to breathe life into them. We cannot create life without God's blessing and agreement. So when we try, we're simply making idols that never had life and identifying with them. Whenever we judge anything, we cannot escape that definition and the condemnation that comes from the ego's assessment of dead fragments. Ideas leave not their source. Whatever we think of the quote outside world, we must think we are, regardless of how much effort we make to deny it. There are certain laws that can't be broken. This is one of them. And though we have used it improperly and believed we damned ourselves, it can be used to save us. We must own up to the fact that we had thought impossible ideas, all that are ugly because they are not of God, and without hating them, gently handing them over to the Holy Spirit, who will happily purify them of all unreality, giving them back to us as shiny and glowing, full of life, since there is no death to have. Life is all there is. God is life. We too then must be life along with him. We forgot our true identity. So what? The ego we made in fear is not true. Why would we be so bothered about what it can't do? In truth, the ego never did anything, because what has no source has no effects. Only God has effects. Let us remember, we may be God's reflection, but a reflection cannot do. It can only show what's been done and prove it happened to the doer. When we decide to believe something, instead of to just be what we are, we look straight at that idea, having replaced truth with it. We can't forgive or forget ideas and beliefs we cherish and made into appearances. We must then learn to realize that what has no source can only produce sadness, then make a definite choice to place our ego's beliefs in the hands of truth, lest we continue to believe in the lies the ego perpetuates, which is the world, and the confusion, pain, misery, and death that comes with believing in the opposite of what God willed and is forever true. To overlook or not see the world is salvation and is the end of the world and time and all bondage from the belief in impossibilities. How can we overlook something unless we first think about it? Well, it's like this. We can anticipate that everything that is before us and we're about to approach is not what we think it is, and train ourselves to not decide we don't know what it is, and develop the habit of asking the Holy Spirit, what is this thing before me, Father? I know not what it is. I know not what it's for. Please tell me. Should I do something? If so, what? The problem of the world seems to continue simply because we are not doing this. We must consult with the Holy Spirit before we do anything, before we think anything. He will guide us gently back home. Every time we ask the Holy Spirit what something is, his most likely response will be, do something about what? There's nothing there, my child. Relax. If there is something to do, it will most likely be Jesus who interjects and tells us what it is, and it's most likely he will tell us to apply forgiveness and an assertion of love in some way, even if it's nonverbal and from a distance. Remember this. Every moment you find yourself looking at a world of form, forgive and you will see this differently. These are the words the Holy Spirit speaks in all our tribulations, all our pain, all suffering regardless of its forms. These are the words with which temptation ends and guilt abandoned is revered no more. These are the words which end the dream of sin and rid the mind of fear. These are the words by which salvation comes to all the world. Thank God. Pensive thought to ponder. Never forget, all that is one. Oneness is all there is. It's so true that it's everywhere and in everyone because it's everything, even non-things. The truth is there, and no things can ever reflect it. But there is a belief we can have false ideas. These false ideas are generated in our own mind as dreams, yet because we, who are real, dream them up, the same rule of oneness applies to them. We cannot escape what we think or dream, especially if we fear what we imagined. We cannot escape anything. We must learn to believe that everything we believe, everything we deny, and everything beyond belief is in our mind. Because, well, where else can it be? And in doing this, we can understand why we must be the, quote, victims of our own ideas. Though it's impossible to be a victim at our own hand or at all, we can deny we had anything to do with the world we fear we made, then had projected everything outside of us to try to fool ourselves into believing we are being attacked from without. But ultimately, we will find that this is not the case. Everything is within our own mind, and the only way we can heal is to have it revealed. When we have false ideas, all it seems to do is, well, something, but whatever it is, it's nothing, because what's not true cannot happen. But in our own mind, it seems to put us in a state of mind so insane and so deeply deluded that reason and reality cannot even be considered without extreme fear. Sounds terrible, right? Wrong. It's nothing. It never happened. No matter how much we believe and what can't be, we will never be truly affected by it. Remember, only God's will is and always has been. Everything else is a bad dream, and we can wake up from it anytime. We just need to have an open mind and accept the fact that we made a silly error in believing in unreality, that we are tired of playing the sad game of the ego and riding the un-merry-go-round, and return our will back to God where it never left. In truth, we are 100% safe. We are 100% innocent. We are 100% the way God created us to be forever. No matter what we believe, no matter what we think, no matter what we see. Amen. See you in my next video.